Hi everybody, Nick McDonald speaking. Thank you very much for joining us for this week's US equity market commentary. Looking at the Russell 2000 here, and let's look at the weekly candle first of all. So not as much to say this week perhaps, because it hasn't changed much from last week. So if we look at where we closed last week and where I was talking last week to suddenly where we are now, we're literally just a couple of ticks higher from where we were. So it's been a very sideways week. You can come down and look at this on a daily chart and see the sideways action. One of the things I said last week was one of my things I would have been coming down and testing this support level. In fact, let's bring up the daily chart. I said we've got some support forming down here. Any move further down towards that would be setting up for a good bounce. Well, there's been a couple of bounces off there, but neither one of them for me got close enough to that level. However, it's just an example of as we approach support. In fact, a different person might have just drawn that line slightly differently than me anyway, just touching on some of these other highs and lows through here, and you could argue that we've had a couple of really good bounces off support already. So note that these support and resistance lines are zones. I try and draw them as precisely as possible, but there's really a zone between those two levels. There's been a couple of bounces off support. Maybe there's been trading opportunities there for some of you from doing that. My own point is, though, the market is at a point where it's uncertain. Now, if we come and look at the monthly chart again, we've been talking for months about this pullback into the monthly chart moving averages. We've done that. That would normally look like a considerable change of trend on, say, for example, the weekly chart. I would look really bearish on a weekly when a monthly chart pulls back. However, the weekly chart still is looking quite bullish. It's not looking bearish, not to a huge extent. We're putting a slightly lower high here, but in the bigger picture, we're still putting these higher lows. We've got some big support through here, and this last week's candle is quite promising, whereby we've had really bearish candles, particularly these last two very bearish candles, followed by an indecisive candle. What makes that indecisive candle bullish? It's a potential change. Following two bearish candles, going from bearish to indecisive is good. It's a potential change of sentiment. Any break up through last week's high is going to be looking pretty bullish for the Russell, especially considering the position we're in on the monthly chart, right in that buy zone. Perfect place to be looking to buy and turn around and push up to new highs. And the daily chart just showing as well that price doesn't really want to break down through that level at this stage. Now, if it does break down through there, then what levels would I be looking for it to pull back to? The levels I identified on the monthly chart. So looking for a pullback into around about 735, maybe even maximum I'll be looking for a pullback down to about 700 being the big figure. That's about as far as I think that the Russell is going to go before turning around and going back up. I actually, though, wouldn't be surprised to see a turnaround this week, and I would be inclined to start taking some tentative bullish positions on the index markets if that happened. Let's have a look at a couple of the cash indices before we come back to the Russell. And when we look at the Dow here, you'll see a similar thing, except even more bullish in terms of we've had such bearish candles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 very bearish weekly candles, followed by a bullish candle. First sign of a potential turnaround. Any break up through that candle this week is going to be a very bullish sign. And equally, the Dow, having pulled right back into this 10-period moving average now, perfect place for it to be turning around and pushing on back up. It's also right at this 12,000 level, really just a good place for it to be pushing back up and testing 13,000 again. Once again, though, if we did break down, next stop around about 11.3. I am certainly putting the probabilities to the bullish side this week. However, there is every chance of a continuation down. It hasn't turned around yet. So when I say I'm bullish, I'll be bullish if price can break up through these certain candles I'm identifying. Looking at the monthly chart on the S&P, same thing, pulled back and touched the 10, which is great. And we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 very bearish candles, followed by an indecisive to somewhat bullish candle. A break up through there this week will be bullish. Any continuation down, well, we'll just keep on, there's not really much to say other than if we break up through the high, that's where I turn bullish. But if we continue on down, then I'll be looking back at these monthly charts, levels I've identified in the past, back around 1200 to 1217. This is a sensible place for it to be pulling back to. That's where it will find price action support and resistance rather than finding support from its moving average zone. The Nasdaq, on the other hand, is a little bit different because the Nasdaq hasn't got a bullish weekly candle like the other ones have. It's got a little bit of a mind of its own at the moment. However, it's pulled right back into that moving average buy zone and it's looking somewhat strong. And if we can, if we continue down, we're going to test probably 2060. However, if the other indices turn around, there's every probability that the Nasdaq will turn around as well. So going back to the Russell and summing this up for the week. Monthly chart looking bullish, undoubtedly in a good strong monthly uptrend. There would have to be a huge sell-off in index markets for this monthly trend to change. And I'm talking all the way back down here behind 570 or a major lower high followed by a lower low. So it will take months to play out, months for me to change my view on the monthly chart. This is looking bullish. It's likely to look bullish for quite some time to come. There'd have to be a major change for me to say anything different. On the weekly, though, we have got some support through here, as well as some old lows, which are kind of forming that support. We're just ever so slightly making higher lows. So break up through last week's high will be bullish. A break down through there will mean I'm going to continue to look for it to pull back further to monthly chart levels. Daily chart doesn't tell us much at the moment, but it could be a place to be coming down and pinpointing and timing entry a little bit better based on these levels, and still just looking for these little bounces back up, because price has bounced off this level many times in the past. If you had been trading bounces around these exact levels around 770, if you've been trading down here, you'd be very happy with your results over the last year, in fact. And we're down there again right now. These levels provide opportunities, and there's opportunities again there now. So I'll be watching that closely, both for bounces while we're above it, and if we break below it, then any breakdown and retest back of that level will be looking very bearish and be looking good for opportunities on the downside as we pull back down towards lower levels. Hope that helps everybody. Happy trading. Have a wonderful week, and I look forward to speaking to you on next week's update.